Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Furrow, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
But I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Cloud Career Q&A session here with Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer here, and I'm joined by Mike Gibbs, our founder and CEO. So what we do here, we take any of your questions about the cloud architect job, cloud architect career, cloud architect training, anything that any questions that you might have about cloud architect jobs. If you've got any questions about the cloud engineer role, we'll take those also. Cloud engineer training, how to become a cloud architect, how to become a cloud engineer. If you don't know what the difference is between a cloud engineer versus a cloud architect, or if you don't know what is a cloud architect, we're here to answer those questions also. Vladimir, so happy to see you. Vladimir is one of our, I guess we call him an alumni now. He recently took part in our program, and now he is off to bigger and better things. Still giving back to us here at Go Cloud Careers, but he is now a working cloud architect. So definitely, we are glad to see you here. I know you have been very busy. So, all right. So yeah, if you've got any questions for us about any cloud career, cloud training, cloud roles, cloud anything, bring them to us. So while we are waiting for those questions to come in, there's a couple of things that I want to make sure everyone is aware of. So the first thing I want to make sure everybody is aware of is our free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar tomorrow, Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can register at the link in the description and in the chat box. It should be posted here in just a moment. And in this webinar, again, it's a free webinar for you. In this webinar, we share with you why we created our program based on experiences that were encountered during Mike's journey. We explain what a cloud architect actually is, what hiring managers actually want. We talk about what type of experience really matters. And then, of course, we talk about how to deal with the HR and the crazy job descriptions that you see out there. And we close it out by talking about what exactly you need to know to become the ultimate cloud architect. And we also tell you how we can help you do that. So whether you do it with us or on your own, make sure to join this webinar so that you get the roadmap. If you get the roadmap, you're good to go. You can do it on your own, or you can do it with us. With us, we think it'll be a little bit easier. You can ask Vlad there in the chat box what he thinks. But yeah, make sure you join us tomorrow. Yeah, see, Collins has put that link there in the chat box. Next thing I want to make sure everyone is aware of is our free AWS exam guide. We recently updated our AWS exam guide for the new versions of the architect certification exams. You can get that link in the chat box or in the description as well. A lot of work has gone into this. This is, I believe, our third version of this. Hundreds of people and hundreds of years worth of experience have gone into the creation of this document. And so you can get the link there in the chat box. Now, Collins, I know I didn't highlight it, but could you also post the link to the video course that we released yesterday? Yesterday we released a video course that goes right alongside this exam guide that we're sharing, and it's free to you. We put it out on YouTube yesterday. It's 10 hours long, so you can bookmark it and come back to it. And it's broken up into chapters, so you can find yourself pretty easily. But yeah, please take advantage of those two free resources. We do that because we know that not everybody can afford to get the tech training, the bare minimum that's necessary, or what's perceived as necessary in today's industry. So we put that out there for free. Next thing, and I'm sorry, my thing, some people scratch their face, some people scratch their nose. I say a lot, so I apologize about that. The next thing I want to bring up is make sure you're following us on LinkedIn, and both Mike's account and Go Cloud Careers account. we're constantly putting information out, and the first place that we put it out is on LinkedIn. So you'll want to make sure that you're following us on LinkedIn on both of the accounts. And then, of course, we want you to subscribe and hit the notification bell and the like button if you choose to do so. We hope you enjoy what we do for you here at Go Cloud Careers. So please take advantage of those buttons down below the video screen. You can also use that share button if you find that helpful for somebody else. So let's get started. I see that there's a lot of activity going on. Mike's been over there. See, I try to keep Mike quiet, so he just switches to the chat box and starts talking to people in the chat box. All right, so let's see here. I got to keep up with the conversation you've been having in the chat box, Mike. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm just going to put the first one up here. So Christopher Magneto says, I just started a degree for cloud computing because of transfer credits. I have about 2 years left before I graduate. What is a realistic expectation for employment after graduation?
Okay, Christopher, the reason I asked you the
desired role is cloud architect. They have sales experience and luckily the blessing of natural soft skills. A lot of people aren't good naturally, and they actually have to work hard. So that's good. That's good. All right. I think that's it.
There you go. Ask one more about cloud engineers. We should read that, and then we'll get to the main content.
Okay, here it is. I do enjoy the potential remote aspect of being a cloud engineer, the frequency of traveling. Both of them are remote. Both of them are remote. Okay. Anyway, I'll let you go.
So, Christopher, I'll tell you one thing. Here's what's meant by remote for cloud engineers. If you live in India, Pakistan, Africa, or any of these locations, you can definitely work remote and stay from home as a cloud engineer. Now, a cloud architect actually travels. And so let's go over the roles. Now, the first question you asked is straight out of school, what are your chances of getting in a cloud architect role without training? They're pretty close to zero. And here's the reason why. We constantly retrain people that get bachelor's degrees and master's degrees in cloud computing to get hired as cloud architects. And here's the challenge. When you get a degree in school on tech, they teach you coding, which we don't do as cloud architects. They teach you all this fluffy theory, which is totally unrelated to what we do. They teach a little sysops, a little DevOps, and none of that has anything to do with our job. The job of an architect is to design, present, and sell a solution. And the reality is, if you told me you had an MBA, I'd tell you were 50% of the way there. But when I hear these cloud computing degrees, they'll do some basic CompTIA certifications. And honestly, if they're on your resume, we'd remove them because employers look at that and say, you're not a cloud architect. Or they do some basic configuration things. And again, that's nothing realistically to do with what we actually do. So the reality is you're going to need training. And here's the reason why. As a cloud architect, you're going to need to meet with a CEO and ask them, what business goals do you have? Which means you're going to need to read financial statements and balance sheets and see what industry analysts are saying and be able to communicate them in the things that they care about, things like revenue, corporate strategy, and the such. And you're just not taught that there. And that's why we teach what we do, or you get it from an MBA program. Now, there's sales skills. And I asked what kind of sales you did for a reason. It's one thing to sell a car, and it's another thing to sell a $200 million architecture. Selling security is like, hey, you're going to feel scared. You'll feel safe in your house. You'll be protected. That has nothing to do with the kind of sales we do here. When somebody is going to spend $200 million, Christopher, on a technology solution, you have to build a business case. And the business case is inclusive of a return on investment capital model that says, look, if you spend this $200 million here, it'll generate $600 million in business value. You also have to show them that, get past what's called the opportunity cost, meaning if I invest this money here, I can't invest it there. So you're going to have to prove that your solution is better. You're going to have to learn to write like an executive, and that's definitely not covered in any technology program. You're going to be learning to present at conferences, and we're talking conferences with 5, 10, and 15,000 people in there. As a cloud architect, you're going to have to learn how to write thought leadership, which is sales documentation for an organization. And it's very different to what they teach you in an MBA program. Now, it's great that you have soft skills. That's great. We'll probably need to make them better. The level of soft skills for someone that gets paid $200,000 a year versus the level of soft skills that are required for normal life are very different. I will tell you, I used to practice internal medicine, okay? And there was a lot of soft skills training there, and I probably had $100,000 of additional soft skills training after that. And in our training program, we cover all these because I know most people can't afford the training. And like I said, we constantly retrain people with bachelor's and master's degrees in cloud computing, and then we get them hired. Now, once we go above that, we actually, as architects, have to design the solution. And when you take one of these programs, they teach you little bits and pieces of the technology, but they don't teach you the underlying thing of how the technology works, what really is going on in a virtual machine. How is BGP truly operating? How do we put the pieces together? So an architect is kind of like a chef. First, you need to know how each and all these pieces work. And then you need to put the ingredients together in the manner. So you can give a chef chicken and some tarragon and some olive oil and some garlic, and they know what to do with it. And that's the difference between a chef and a cook. The chef can figure out what food, what wine, what desserts, and they all put it together as part of the menu. That's what we do. So you have to learn the architecture piece. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, Christopher, that a cloud is nothing more than a network and a data center. And there's only one university in the country in New Jersey that actually trains networking. One. And just one. So you're going to need to learn the IP addressing, the subnetting, the supernetting, route aggregation, BGP, OSPF, switching concepts such as VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, port channel, ether channel, link aggregation groups. And you're going to need to gain the knowledge, for example, in terms of WAN optimization, whether it be VPN concentrators, private lines, IPsec tunnels, software-defined networking, SASE type solutions. Then you're going to need to understand all the things like DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, and how they work at the elemental level. And then when you go back, you're going to need to know the data center technologies in depth, how they work, so you know how to design them. Things like the storage area networks, block storage, object storage, file storage, and not that nonsense they teach in an AWS certified solution architect professional, which is here's the name of it and here's how to configure it. You need to understand how the thing works, you know, how to optimize it. And then you're going to have to know how to build a team of $200,000 employees and 50 of them for an architecture and how to lead them. You're going to have to learn how to go to your internal management to sell them on why they need to dedicate you these expensive resources. Then you're going to need to learn security, and it's not any of the nonsense that's taught in AWS Advanced Security. We're talking next generation firewalls, VPN concentrators, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems. What kind of databases to use and when, and why you can't use 2/3 of the databases that are taught in your cloud computing course because they're proprietary and they lock people in different solutions. So the answer is yes, you can get one. In fact, in this year, we've gotten lots of people cloud architect jobs with zero experience. We had Daniel Bosu, we got him a beautiful cloud architect job with JP Morgan Chase, and he didn't even graduate high school. Or Delroy Batt, for example, who has an associate degree, never even applied for a job, and he had 3 cloud security architects. Or the wonderful Vladimir, who's on this course right now. He's a very fine young man. I think he's 24, if I remember correctly. He got a beautiful cloud architect job after our training. Really inspiring, fine gentleman. We had Jennifer, the mental health tech recently that got hired as a cloud architect. We had Coyote, a college student who just got hired by AWS. We had Ivan Tamba hired by AWS before he even graduated college. And the point is we're doing this all the time, but what we have to do is we have to retrain people. And the reality is the following. You know, when I did an MBA program, and I was real proud of myself, okay, Christopher? When I was working as an architect, and then I was told, hey, Mike, I need you to lead a CIO business council. And I was all excited, right? So I started talking like I got fresh out of school, started talking about OpEx and CapEx and used every business term in the one. And then my executive coach says to me, Michael, drop it. Now here's what you need to do. So the answer is you can definitely do it. And as cloud architect, you'll travel because you have to go to customer sites again, and again. Now, cloud engineers, there's no reason for them to ever travel because it doesn't matter whether you code in Cambodia, Cameroon, Chicago, Cape Town, it just doesn't matter. But cloud architects are constantly traveling. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But yes, you can get hired, but you're going to need some specialized training to do so.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Let's see. All right. So Peter says hello. He hopes that you're doing well.
Great to see you, Peter.
Let's see. Our next question. Okay. So Ratika says, I've graduated this year. How can I get our first cloud job as it requires experience and eligibility criteria? And then they followed up. You asked them a question, what type of cloud career do you desire? So we probably should have asked a little bit differently, but they said cloud security. So kind of vague.
I'm going to do two things. The first thing I'm going to do is ask you what kind of cloud security you want to do. Do you want to design it as an architect? Do you want to build it as a cloud engineer? Do you want to do defensive security, which is protecting the systems? Do you want to do offensive security, which is ethical hacking and finding out the weaknesses? I can't answer that until you actually tell me. But what I can tell you in the meantime is every job that I've ever seen in my entire life wants 30 years experience, 52 Olympic gold medals, and guess what? It doesn't matter. And I just gave you examples of people that got hired with 0 experience for architect positions. So here's the secret to being hired. If I told you that if I interview 1,000 people, and I'm not joking, I may find one person that can do the job, or I may not. Now, here's the biggest problem we have in technology. Most people don't know what the job is that they actually want. And that's why I was so specific: cloud security engineer, cloud security architect, defensive security, offensive security. Because what happens is if you don't know and you can't narrow it down to exactly what you know, you won't know the skills for your job. So what we typically have is we have people that get done school, they take a bunch of certifications that are totally unrelated to anything. They try to learn everything, and in the end, they're not hireable. And what happens is someone will bring you in on an interview. And if you bomb the interview or fail the interview, what they're going to say is, come back when you have more experience. And that's a polite way of saying you're not competent, so go away and come back years later when you may be competent, but you can get hired. So the key is you've got to do a couple of things. One is you got to know exactly what the job is that you want. 2, you've got to optimize your brand for it. That means the perfect resume, the perfect LinkedIn profile that shows and highlights you in that role. If you've got social media posts, optimize it for your brand. If you've ever said anything negative about a person, a religion, an ethnicity, a political background, remove it, because we can't hire people that can't be likable and lovable by the entire world. Next, the key is, here's your secret, by the way, to getting a job when you have no experience. Be competent. I got to tell you, it is so hard to find somebody competent. As a hiring manager, when you see it, you'll just hire them. Here's an example. Chris was my student. He was doing an internship, and I kind of had to hire him because he was that good. He'll tell you, I never even saw his resume. I had no idea what was even on it. To this day, I've never looked at it. I knew he had an MBA because he told me, but other than that, I had no idea. The point is, it didn't matter to me. It was irrelevant to me. He was good. He was solid. He was strong. So learn the skills of your job. Master those skills of your job. For example, one of the reasons architects don't get hired is they study SysOps, they study DevOps, they study Python, and then they put all this junk on their resume. And here's the reason it's junk. If you're an airplane pilot and you're interviewing for an airplane pilot job and you say, hey, look, I'm a mechanic, I'm a waiter, I'm a firefighter, and oh, by the way, I know how to fly a plane, which is what most tech resumes look like. Do I see you as a pilot? No. Now, if your resume looked like this, you were in the Navy and then you went to flight school, now I'm interested. So the point is you got to make sure you've got the exact skills for your career. Master those skills, the most critical skills, not the other ones. Because if you're hired with the most critical skills, you can learn the nice to haves later. The next is your brand. So if you want to do something in cloud security, I have my students write articles. Vladimir wrote some beautiful articles, for example, on cloud architecture. And when it comes to writing articles, there's two things. There's making the news and reporting the news. Making the news, I see it every single day. There's somebody that heard me say blogs. They're not our students, and they're like, here, I set up an Apache web server. Look how cool this is. Don't write that. It makes somebody look like a fool, and here's the reason. Yum install Apache, or yum install HTTPD. That's the entire way that you would do it. Or on a, what do you call it, on an Ubuntu systems or a DBS system, it would be sudo apt-install Apache or sudo apt-install HTTPD. I forget what the command is these days, but that's the key. That is not a blog. But if you were to talk about, next generation firewalls and why you might want to use two sets of next generation firewalls for your security architecture and the benefits they bring, that makes the world see you as an expert. So there is that. But it's really about training. Now, here's the thing. The more likable you are, the more hireable you are. So if you really work on your soft skills, your executive presence, your communication skills, your leadership skills, your sales skills, your emotional intelligence, not only can these skills that I just told you add upwards of an additional $100,000 to your career annually, especially if you include business acumen, but they make you more attractive. It's kind of like, let's say you've got two cars, two brand new Mercedes. One, somebody scratched up completely and poured, and spray painted it with graffiti. And another one looks like it's nice, polished, and shiny. And they're the same price. Which do you buy? The shiny one. Which car's better? They're identical. It's irrelevant. That's the key. So you need to polish yourself up, polish your brand up, and that's how you get these jobs. But we need to know exactly which job so we can tell you which skills you need to know for which cloud security job, because they're all different.
All right. So I will be taking the next question, Mike, so that you stop talking.
Chris is protecting my voice. I have a vocal cord injury.
All right. So let's see. Cookie Monster. We've had Cookie Monster on here before. Says, been lurking around here for a while. Not sure if I like what I'm currently doing. Do I need the experience to jump into a cloud architect role? So it doesn't matter what you've done before. What matters is what you want to do. So the best examples are, do you need the experience to become a doctor? No, you just need the training. Do you need the experience to become a lawyer? No, you just need the training. Do you need the experience to become a pilot? A little bit. They actually do require some hours, but it's training. It's training. But so nobody's born being any of these roles, just like nobody's born being a cloud architect. So Mike was talking about it earlier that, the competency is what matters. The actual knowledge and how to use that knowledge is what matters. And that doesn't necessarily come from experience. You can have someone that's worked in the same job for 30 years. Doesn't mean that they're the one that you want doing the job. They just happen to be doing just good enough, and they can be paid just good enough, and give the results that are just good enough. Doesn't mean that they're actually good. Doesn't mean that they actually have competency or the knowledge to be amazing at that job. So from an HR perspective, this whole experience thing that you see on job resumes and on job postings and on job descriptions, the experience is a arbitrary metric in an attempt to measure your competency, because HR and machines and AI, they can't measure your competency. No matter whether it's a AI applicant tracking system that's trying to review your resume, or if it's a 100 question randomized test or quiz that you have to do, there's no way for them to actually be able to judge your actual competency, because you may not be good on a test. So, that's not gonna judge your competency. So they're always trying to find ways to measure competency other than actually talking to the individual to judge the competency. So the question of, do I need the experience? No, you need the competency. And that's what we're offering here. At Go Cloud Careers is to help you gain the competency. And along with that does come some experience. But you see 5 years experience on job descriptions. Many of our students have gotten the jobs without the requirement. That's what I got. You want to add anything to that, Mike? You're muted.
Sorry about that. I kept getting texted, so I muted my phone. But no, I think you put it perfectly. The reality is, if you're really good at what you do, you're competent. It is miserable to find competency. Cookie Monster, I've interviewed 5,000 people in my life. I hired 10. 2 were truly competent. 4 or 5 of them didn't know the industry at all, but I liked them so much I said they were worth training. So the key is you can definitely get there, and you can definitely do it, and we can easily help you get there, but you've got to be great. And that's the difference. When you've got no experience, you've got to be great, and you have to use some of the branding techniques that we do. For example, Delroy Batt never applied for a job ever. Robert Welch, who just got his first cloud security architect job, never applied. With the branding work that we do, he had 10 to 15 interview requests per day. He also took a pretty good approach to his LinkedIn profile like we taught him. But that's the key. For these good jobs, you make people come to you, you skip HR, and then you get cloud hired. Because once the hiring manager sees you, you're in a totally different world. So we have people come to our employees. And that's why we have people like Delroy Batt that didn't have a single cloud certification, that had 3 cloud architect jobs. He turned down 2, went to CDW, and he loves it. And we can definitely help you, but you're going to have to be great. So less experience just means you got to be better.
All right. So kind of quiet today, so I want to make sure that everybody gets their questions in. We do have a meeting right at 11, so we're going to have to be finishing up just a little bit early today. But make sure that you get those questions in if you've got any questions for us. So let's go to the next one here. I'll start this one off too. So Stefan says, I've been seeing a lot of training to become a cloud architect. I'm worried it might be oversaturated in the near future. So here's the thing. There's a couple of things to keep in mind about this. There are a lot of openings for the cloud architect position. They may not be filling all of them right now. They might be holding off for a week, for a month or two, but that's normal trend there in this time of the year anyway. But there are a lot of openings for the architect role. You're seeing a lot of architect training that is not training people to do the architect role. So if you do true architect training and prepare for the actual architect role instead of another role with the architect name slapped on top of it, then you won't have any trouble.
No trouble.
Reaching your career goal if your career goal is to become an architect. The problem is that so many people are training architects and they're not truly architects. And as soon as somebody gets even the opportunity, a phone call, nowadays, you get a phone, you do a pre-screen interview or heck, some of it's probably done as a pre-screen through LinkedIn messaging. Most of the time, within the first couple of questions, people screen themselves out because it's apparent that they don't have the competency to do what's necessary. That's why Mike gets job offers every single day. Robert Welch gets job offers every single day. Delroy Batt gets job offers every single day. People from our program are constantly getting job offers every single day. So yeah, there's a lot of training being done, but it's not the proper training. And what's unfortunately going to happen, and which is what we're trying to prevent from happening with what we do, is you're going to have countless numbers of people that have spent time, money, and energy to get training for a career that they're now not prepared for and that they won't be able to attain. And so they're right where they began. And it's unfortunate, and that's what we are trying to prevent from happening. It's unfortunate that's what the reality is. Mike, I know you've got some experience in interviewing people that have had architect training.
So Stefan,
architect training.
I'm going to cover this in a few ways. One is none of those other courses are architect training at all. Here's an example. One of those people that charges more than we do posted, guess what? I taught how to define high availability systems by using 2 availability zones, 2 regions, and CloudFront. And guess what? I taught my people how to configure it. Now, here's the funny thing, Stefan. Architects don't configure. We design, present, and sell the technology. Now, here's the interesting thing of why it was worthless. Well, you can't design high availability systems on a single cloud. A single cloud is a single point of failure, and 80% of customers use more than one cloud. And when surveyed, 97% want to be. Now, if you look at AWS, if you go do an NS lookup of Amazon.com, you'll find that they don't use a single content delivery network either. In fact, their primary content delivery network is Akamai. Their second content delivery network is Fastly. And their third content delivery network is actually CloudFront. So they're not even using their own as a primary one. And, and I saw the same service providers say, I taught high security with WAF and Shield, but here's the reality, Stefan. You can't use WAF and Shield if you have a high security environment. You need to get a next generation firewall. So while all these architect training programs are teaching the name of the service and how to configure it, they are not teaching architecture. Architecture is how do you design, present, and sell. So Stefan, what they're actually teaching is something called cloud administration, which is name of a service and how to configure it. So Stefan, the reason people don't get hired from these programs and the reason I have to retrain all of them, or they have to go get an MBA, is as follows. What we do as architects is design, present, and sell. So the first thing that these programs don't include is communication skills training. If I told you 70% of all business errors occur from poor communication, would you know the first thing that you need to do as an architect? You need to go meet with the company and ask what their business goals, business pain points, and business challenges are. And none of those people teach that. And that's why it's so easy to get these jobs if you're prepared. So first, you need to understand business. If you don't understand business and you only know tech, you're not an architect. Then you need to be able to communicate to the CEO, CFO, CIO, CTO. It's called CXO relevancy. And the reality is none of these people teaching these courses have ever been taught CXO relevancy because they're not real architects themselves. The third thing is, how do you sell? How do you sell $1 billion solution? I promise you, it's a lot different than if you try to sell a car, which means you need to learn how to build an ROI model, a business case, calculate weighted average cost of capitals to be able to figure out what the rent or buy decision. Then you need to be able to understand, customers' needs for availability and performance. What happens if the system goes down? Is it like healthcare where somebody dies? Is it a bank where millions of dollars are lost per second? And you need those calculations to understand how much robustness you need in your architecture. Now, Stefan, once we go interact with the client and ask them what their goals are, we need to go back to our customer and build a team. There was a movie, Rambo, and I love Sylvester Stallone, but that's not reality. There's 6 men in a SEAL platoon for a reason. It takes a team. So what do? After we go to that client, we go back to our business and we got to reach out to the executives in our business and convince them we need 30 people to design an architecture. So the leadership skills for this job are extraordinary. Now, next there's presentation skills. And the presentation skills that are there to deliver these things are phenomenal. And guess what? On an interview, they're going to make you have to present too. They're going to have to make you present. So those are some of the business things that we talk about. Now, then, and we also teach people how to interview, how to negotiate a higher salary. And just one of our students recently told us that in addition to the $100,000 raise they got after our training, they negotiated an additional $20,000 from our negotiation training. So first, I want to invite you to the webinar, and our team is going to do this. But I want to add a couple more things while we're at it. While these things teach the name of a service and how to configure that service, they don't teach design. And if you don't understand the underlying technology of the data center, you can't design it. And secondly, all these courses focus on either AWS or Azure. But guess what? The reality is we can't use 50% of the services they teach. And here's the reason why. Once you use DynamoDB or Aurora or something silly like that, the problem is you're locked into a proprietary solution. We can't use ECS in reality, Elastic Container Service. If we do, multi-cloud things are gone. We can't use DynamoDB because once we do, our multi-cloud options are gone. So the reality is there's 1,000,001 training sessions. And Stefan, I probably should show this LinkedIn message. One of the providers that's teaching how to become a solution architect recently messaged me and said, Mike, would you teach me cloud computing? I'd like to actually be able to get a cloud job. So that's the reality. There's a lot of courses out there. But the reason I came out of retirement to design this program was I interviewed 1,000 people that took those courses. Not a single one of them knew anything about architecture. They knew administration and cloud admin, but they had no knowledge of cloud architecture. A cloud architect is considered a unicorn. They are so hard to find, and they've been hard to find for 25 years. And one more thing, Stefan, engineering is a different thing. Engineering, it doesn't matter where you're at in the world, but what it's really hard to find, and it's easy to find engineers, it's really hard to find someone that can figure out the business problem and map that to a technology solution that can actually improve business, because it's a hybrid executive plus technology professional. Don't worry about it being oversaturated. We're going to need many, many more than them, and there's more jobs out there than we can possibly imagine how to fill.
All right, before you say one more thing, let me get to the next question. All right. So Aisha says, do generic cloud architects need to know a little about all types of cloud architect roles to get an interview?
Well, you need to be able to understand all components of the cloud. So here's the thing, Aisha. As an architect, you're going to have to coordinate all of these other experts. So, Mike, you got $1 billion design. I'm going to go find me a cloud security architect, find me a big cloud big data architect, find me a DevOps engineer, find me some maintenance people or SysOps people, and find me a cloud network architect, 2 or 3 more generic architects, and put them all together in a room. So you need to be, this role is really a business role. So you need to show that you know what you know and know what you don't know, and you know how to build the team. It's a leadership role. So yes, you do need to understand security, networking, and all the network and data center components, but not to the level of the specialists.
All right. Next question. Before we get to the one that I know you want to answer, Christopher says, would you recommend adding the architect development program during my pursuit of the degree or after completion of the degree?
During the pursuit of the degree. And here's the reason, Christopher. There's a very good chance that you can get hired while you're pursuing the degree and have your employer pay for that degree.
Ivan Tamba is a perfect example. Yes. I'm going to find his couple of videos.
Yeah,
but I'll let you talk about him while I look for that.
Ivan Tamba was a 24-year-old fireball. Love the guy, respect the guy. He's like one of those people I wish was my own son. He immigrated to the U.S. from Cameroon at 15 years old. Found a family to take him in. He then decided to go to college, which he couldn't afford. So he worked full-time as a waiter while he was in college, drove 90 minutes back and forth to school every single day, took our course, and went on an interview with AWS. This was January of last year. December of last year. AWS loved him so much that they actually offered him a job. And then Christopher, what he said to AWS is he says, I'm so excited for the job. Any chance you'll let me graduate college first and start in May? And they loved him so much they waited for him.
So I just put 2 links in there for Yvonne. So we had Yvonne on our show when he got cloud hired in December of last year. And then we did a career check-in with Yvonne in October recently. I think it was October. Maybe it was November. I don't remember. But yeah, so check out those 2 videos. He's a perfect example of someone that was in college working towards this degree and working in the program. Now, here's the question I know you want to get to, Mike. So I also have a special ops military background with the tattoos to reflect it. Nothing on my face or above the neckline. As I consider moving into the corporate side of things, is this usually an issue?
Well, if you can wear a shirt, you can cover it up. Now, here's the thing, Christopher. Hiring a special operations warrior is like, please give them to me, please give them to me, please give them to me. It's the biggest competitive advantage in the world. Here's what we deal with in most cases, Christopher. Somebody comes in and they say, what's the work-life balance? Am I going to have time to do? And they go, those kind of things. Here's what we know about special operations warrior. And first, thank you for your service. You know, there's traditional military, and I respect them all. And then there's the special operations warrior. To get special ops selection, you have to train until you throw up every single day. Their special operations warriors are tortured for a reason. If I beat you to death and you still survive, you come back stronger. So the mental toughness, the mental fortitude, and the will in a special operations warrior is in the top 1 or 2% of the world. Organizations love competitive athletes. They love special operations warriors because they have the commitment and the fight and the will to compete until they win. Special operations warriors also know how to work in a team. If you ask a special operations warrior, if I said to you, Christopher, I need you to meet me at XYZ location at 2:32 p.m., your response would be, Roger that. Let me confirm. I'm going to meet you at XYZ location at 2:32 p.m. And that means you're not going to make communication errors. If I said to you, I'd like you to meet me at mgibbs@mgibbs.com, you're not going to make a spelling issue, which is going to be the communications error. You're going to say Mike Golf India Bravo Bravo Sierra, and we're going to confirm it. You're going to use communication that is very clear and very strong. Special operations warriors look people in the eye when they talk to them, and they depend upon each other. If you've got a sniper that's sitting in a position for 14 hours at a time, that spotter, well, actually, they train places with the spotter for the most part. That spotter staring over them and the environment, and they have to trust the spotter to keep track of the environment because they can't stare down a scope if they're worried about getting shot themselves. So this is a huge, huge, huge benefit. Yes, the tattoos are a detractor. I wish it wasn't, but to some degree they are. But coming from a Spec Ops warrior perspective, you are already considered the elite as is, and people will love that, love that, love that. Thank you for your service. This is an asset, not a liability. So there are certain people in the world that don't like sheepdogs. In the US, we like to say there are sheep, wolves, and sheepdog. Sheep are kind of like floating around, don't know what's going on around them. Wolves try and attack the sheep, and sheepdogs protect them. And yes, there's probably 1 or 2 in 10 people that are scared of sheepdogs until they need a sheepdog to come and rescue them. But special operations warriors, highly important. Now, how important do you think I find this community? I actually have a Helping Our Heroes program get hired for US warriors. And what we did is put together a special leadership program for them. And a special, how do you transition? What's it like being shot at every day, living under stress? So we have some things to work with those things to go from command and control military leadership to civilian leadership. But the point is, huge benefit. Thank you for your service. Thank you for commitment to others. Thank you for protecting others. And you've got a bright future.
All right. So doesn't look like we've got any more questions right now. So we're going to be, we do have to wrap up. We got just a few minutes. If anybody's got any last questions, squeeze them in now. Yeah, so Christopher says the tattoos are the reason I'm considering the cloud engineer role. Nah, don't. That's not a reason to. No, no, not at all. Even if you weren't able to cover up every single tattoo, that's not a reason to. No. All right, so Zex Marquis says, is it difficult to negotiate a sign-on bonus? They want it for a house down payment, don't we all? I'm in your program in section 9 currently. Leo sees my potential and is pushing me hard. Good for Leo. All right.
Good for Leo.
But yeah, sign-on bonuses, Mike.
You know, here's the thing. It's dependent, Zex. And right now, I wouldn't be pushing for sign-on bonuses. See, we're sort of in a global recession, but our students are still getting hired. I think we had 3 people get hired just last week in the middle of a hiring freeze and a recession. So you can still get hired by being great. But now's not really the time to push, give me sign-on bonuses. Now's the time, especially if you lack experience, Zex, to go out there, wow them so much on the interview that they're willing to pay you more. But I probably wouldn't be trying to negotiate a sign-on bonus. In fact, I've never tried to negotiate a sign-on bonus in my entire life. I've negotiated higher salaries. I've negotiated stock options and stock grants, but I've never negotiated a sign-on bonus. I've negotiated long-term things that are there.
Yeah.
In these jobs, you're going to get paid enough that you'll be able to buy one, any kind of house you actually want anyway. But, you know, there's something to be said about sales. And when you sell and on an interview, you're selling. You need to make it easy for your customer to buy. So remove any obstacles that are going to keep them from hiring you. So I would probably not be trying to negotiate a sign-on bonus. I'd be right now working on getting hired. Now, in 3 years from now, when you've got some experience and the job market's red hot, sure, you can negotiate a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 sign-on bonus. But right now, I'd focus more on getting hired.
Agreed. Definitely agree. The big thing with sign-on, the big reason for sign-on bonuses are usually something that you have already to bring to them.
Yeah.
So negotiating sign-on bonuses without having anything to bring to the table that, like, Mike or I, you know, not to be braggadocious, Mike or I could, if I was going into hotel operations or anything like that, I could negotiate a sign-on bonus. Mike can negotiate a sign-on bonus. It's based on what we bring to the table. I bring to the table years of experience of developing hotels from the ground up. So I'd be able to go to a growing hotel company and negotiate a sign-on bonus easily. Mike, no matter what Mike does, he can negotiate a sign-on bonus. You know, if you were trying to find something, Mike talked about the longer term things. You know, you could talk about some deferred bonuses based on XYZ, but not right now. This job market's not the place to do it. All right, so this will be our last question. Is it possible to pick up a solution architect associate job without being certified? So first of all, I got 2 things. There is no such thing as a solution architect associate job. I'm assuming that's what you mean by SAA. There's a solution architect, there's a cloud architect, and there's network architects, security architects, database architects. There's no solution architect associate. There are associate solution architects at AWS. But there is no solution architect associate role. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward. That's not a role. Without being certified, yes, all day long. If you've got the competency and you've got the knowledge, you don't have to have a certification to get the job. You just have to have the competency and the knowledge. The certification helps you get your foot in the door for an interview. If we're talking about AWS certifications or Azure certifications or lower level Cisco certifications and things like that, they help you get your foot in the door. You have to back it up with the competency. If you've got the certification but not the competency, it doesn't work for you. If you got the competency without the certification, it works for you. See, Robert Welch. Yes.
Robert,
No search needed. Robert Welch had a cloud practitioner certification.
and you should see the job he got. And by the way, Robert Welch was our student, and we love him, we respect him, and he's amazing in every way.
Yep.
Delray Bat, not only did he get 3 offers, but he picked the one he liked best. He has 0 cloud certifications, and he didn't even apply for jobs because he was part of Go Cloud Careers and you did the branding, that people actually reached out to him. And now that he's hired, he still gets people reaching out to him every day, but he loves where he's at.
Yep. All right. Well, let us wrap it up. Well, first of all, the banner's already up there. Collins, if you can share the link to our webinar, make sure to register for our webinar and join us tomorrow, Thursday, at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we will tell you everything that you need to know to become a cloud architect and how we can help you along the way if you choose to work with us. But we'll share the whole roadmap with you. Make sure you take notes. Let's see. Next thing, of course, make sure that you get the exam guide for the AWS certification, and make sure to bookmark the course that we released yesterday for the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. Collins will be putting those 2 things in the chat box as well. So want to thank everybody for being here. Hope we were able to help you, and we look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.